Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video I will be giving you guys my outlook for the Washington Commanders 2022 wide receiver room. I'll be talking about why I think this is a much improved group from last year. We're going to talk about how this group stacks up against other receiving cores in the NFL, and also I'll give you guys my thoughts on which receivers I think will make the roster and much more. So if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe for Washington and NFL content on the road to 8,000 subscribers, so please help me get there. Also hit that like button and turn on those notifications so you never miss a video. So the last few years, the Washington Commanders receiving core has just been an absolute disaster besides Terry McLaurin. I mean, it's basically been Terry McLaurin and no one else. I mean, Cam Sims in 2020 was pretty solid and he was good at times last year, but I mean, Terry McLaurin has had to play with guys like Steven Sims, who, was good, in his rookie year, but after that wasn't. AGG, Kelvin Harmon, and it even gets worse from, there, Dontrell Inman, Jeff Badette, Robert Foster. I mean, think about those guys. Some of those guys were starting receivers next to Terry McLaurin, and some people wonder why Terry can't get 1,200 plus yards. This is why, along, with not having great QB play, he's had terrible receivers around him, and this year I feel like the Washington Commanders receiving core is significantly better than it's been in the past, and I think it would have been last year as well if Curtis Samuel was healthy, but of course he was not, and we'll see how he's, if he's able to stay healthy for this season. And just a quick thing, I am pre-recording this video, recording it on June 13th, so some things may have changed, just an FYI before I go on a trip, but I really am liking this receiving core. They obviously added Jahan Dotson, you still got Terry McLaurin, hopefully they can get a long-term deal done with him, Curtis Samuel going into his second year with the Commanders, but really gonna be his first year, and then De'Ami Brown in his second year. So let's kind of look receiver by receiver. I mean, some of these guys, we already know, what they're gonna do. Like, we know Terry McLaurin is going to ball out. Terry McLaurin is a really good receiver in this league. I think has, the talent to be a top 10 receiver, and he might already be there, but I think, he hasn't gotten that production because of the receivers around him and the QB play. But I think Terry McLaurin is an absolute beast, and I think this year he'll have the best year of his career. If he's able to play 15, 16 plus games, I think he'll get over 1,200 yards this year and close to 10 touchdowns with Carson Wentz as his QB, Jahan Dotson next to him, Curtis Samuel next to him, and then some good rotational receivers as well. So even if we have some injuries at the receiver position, this year we have insurance. Last year we had no insurance at all. It was just Terry and Curtis, and then Curtis went down, and De'Ami didn't pan out like we thought he would in his rookie year. And yeah, so Terry, I think he's going to be a beast this year. I think he'll crack that 1,200 yard mark that we haven't had in a long time. So I'm excited to see what he can do with a good quarterback, or at least a competent quarterback and good receivers around him. Next guy, Curtis Samuel, super excited to see what Curtis Samuel can do for the Commanders. Obviously, last year was a very disappointing year. Really didn't play. I mean, it says 5 games, 27 receiving yards, and had some rushing yards as well. But he really, I think the max amount of snaps he played in a game was 20. So he didn't play this season, guys. But you look at his other years, he went from 100 to 500 to 620 to 850. Every year, he improved more and more and more. And I thought that was going to happen in 2021, but of course had the injuries. But I think he can be, produce similar to what he did in 2020, and that would be a huge boost to the Commanders' offense, because it's pathetic, but they haven't had a number 2 receiver that had, or a receiver besides Terry McLaurin or their number 1 receiver produce more than 500 yards in a season since 2017. That's just pathetic. It's been Terry and no one else. Cam Sims came close to it in 2020 with 477 yards, obviously not counting any tight ends or running backs, because we've had those guys go over 500 with another guy, with Terry going over 1,000 as well. But I think Curtis will be good for us this year. They're going to be able to use him a ton of different ways out of the backfield, straight up like a running back. They use him even, like that last year, some end around plays, and then I think in the screen game, just all over the place. Curtis Samuel is a very, very versatile player, and I think he's going to add a lot to this offense. I think he'll be kind of in that similar range to, Jahan Dotson his rookie year, like I think kind of 700 to 850, maybe he can get a little bit more than that, get close to 1,000. I'm very, very excited to see what he can do this year. Again, he's familiar with the offense and some of the players around him, played with Terry McLaurin in college. So yeah, we'll see what he does this year. Next guy, Jahan Dotson. He has been tearing it up in OTAs and mini camps. So everyone has been saying great things about the first round rookie receiver Jahan Dotson, and I think he's gonna produce at a pretty high level in his rookie year. He's gonna play on the outside, can probably play in the slot as well. I mean, all these receivers that we have, at least the trio and Terry, Curtis, and Jahan, they can play anywhere on the receiving core. But ideally you got Terry and Jahan on the outside and Curtis Samuel in the slot. But Jahan Dotson, had great production in his last year at Penn State with not great QB play and not great receivers around him, similar to what Terry McLaurin had, or has had so far in his career. And I think Jahan Dotson, he's got great hands, he's quick, he's elusive, like he's good at got a great catch radius. So I think he's going to help out Carson Wentz out, a lot. And they've already developed a great chemistry so far in training camp. So I think that he will produce at a pretty high level and, be worth it at that first round pick. So I think he'll get in that 700 to 850 yard range, kind of like Curtis Samuel in that range. And I think he could, though, be the number 2 weapon on the offense in terms of, receiving weapon behind Terry. That's crazy to say, because I think after the draft, you'd have probably said, okay, probably Curtis Samuel's above him and maybe Logan Thomas, but now Logan Thomas looking like he might be out for the start of the season. And then, Jahan's been looking good, so he could be the number 2, option on the, passing offense. So excited to see what he can do. He's been tearing it up, and hopefully he can, he does that actually in games, because at OTAs you want these guys to do well, but they actually have to do it in the game. So we're gonna go a little bit quicker here. Dyami Brown definitely had an underwhelming rookie year. Part of that was his fault. Part of it was kind of Heineke not hitting him when he was open. Like there's a few times where he's open, and if Heineke hits him, it's a 20-plus yard gain. A couple times could have been a touchdown. So, and that's going to happen with every quarterback, but it definitely happened more with Heineke and Dyami. So, part of that's on him, but also part of it was on Dyami. Like he wasn't getting open. He's kind of a one-trick pony just on those go routes. So he needs to improve a little bit in this offseason in terms of his route running, his versatility, and I think he's done that. But we're going to have to wait and see during training camp and preseason and then actually the season to see how much he's improved. And I'm not asking, and I've been saying this all offseason, like we don't need, Dyami Brown to go from, 165 yards in his rookie year to 750, 800 yards in his second year. Like that is too much to ask. I think if Dyami gets to around that 400 yard mark, I know that's not a lot, but that is solid for a rotational receiver. And in year 2, I think that is a win for him. In that 400 to 500 range, again, we haven't had 2 receivers over 500 yards since 2017. So if we could get a guy close to that or to that mark, in Dyami Brown, I think that would be a success. And I assume if Jahan and Curtis are healthy, both those guys will go over 500 yards. But Dyami, just get a big year 2 leap, over double his yards. Like if he can get to 400, I think that is a win for sure. And then in year 3, that's when he can make his leap to maybe being a wide receiver 3 in this league, get to that like 600 yard mark. Because I don't know, I mean, maybe he can still be a number 2 receiver in this league, or maybe better than that. I just think he needs to take those baby steps, and I think he will. He's been working hard this offseason, and I think Carson Wentz is really going to help out Dyami Brown this year. Next guy, Cam, and all of these guys I said earlier will 100% make the roster. Cam Sims, the next guy, he's going to make this roster. 6'5", 26 years old, 220 pounds. We all know the deal with Cam Sims. He's a good rotational receiver. He's not a starter in this league. And yeah, we know what Cam Sims is at this point. I thought last year, though, he should have gotten way more playing time than he did. And, I think the playing time he got should have been like with Curtis Samuel being healthy and maybe like if De'Ami Brown is actually good last year, but no, that wasn't the case. Curtis Samuel's out for the whole year basically, and De'Ami wasn't stepping up. Like Cam Sims was playing behind guys like Adam Humphries. I know it was a little bit different position, but like he was playing behind guys that he probably shouldn't have been playing behind, and he didn't get that much playing time, but he had some big plays, over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, had that big touchdown over Trayvon Diggs in that Cowboys game, and I think he should have probably gotten more playing time. I think with Cam Sims, like Cam Sims obviously likes those bigger, receivers. He's 6'5", can go up and get it. So I think, Cam Sims will kind of get that same production he did last year, maybe a little bit more, because now we actually have some good receivers, ahead of him. So Terry, Curtis, and Jahan, all of those guys are no doubt ahead of them, and you can probably say same thing with maybe De'Ami. Like those guys are kind of competing right there. So I think Cam Sims will kind of be in that 250 to 300 range, but he'll be efficient and be used more in the red zone as that big target. Excited to see what Cam Sims can do, and he always, if he needs to, can play on special teams because he's a beast on special teams. That's how he made the roster in 2020. So those guys all locks to make the team 100%. Next guy, Alex Erickson. I think he probably will make the team as a punt returner slash kick returner. Not really, like he's probably the DeAndre Carter replacement, and not on offense though, but we're not going to need the offense that DeAndre Carter had last year because we're getting Curtis Samuel back. We added Jahan Dotson, and we have a couple other players. So like DeAndre Carter's production offense is very, very replaceable, but his kick returning is not very replaceable. It's going to be hard to find someone besides Alex Erickson who can do that, and we're going to need him to do that. And punt returning, I thought DeAndre Carter actually wasn't that great as a punt returner, but you look at him as a receiver, is okay. 70 yards, 180, 160, had a big year in 2019, but like he's not going to add that much as a receiver, and hopefully we don't need him to. Hopefully he gets maybe a couple catches, kind of like what he did in 2016 or 2021, because that likely means our guys are healthy. And then you look at his rushing, he gets some rushes as well. And then returning, though, he is a very, very good returner. And kick returns, only had 2 last year, but averaged 29, had 3. Let's go back to 20. So 20 actually was a full-time kick returner in 2016, averaged 28. Like that is absolutely insane. That is elite level stuff right there. Had an 84-yard return, and then in 2017 a little bit of a step down, 21 yards, and then 2018 had a big year, 26.2 yards per return. So he's better than DeAndre Carter, in my opinion, as a kick returner, or at least what he was in 2016 or 2018. And we'll see if he's actually our full-time kick returner, if he can get back to that spot. And he's a solid punt returner as well. You look at it. In 2021, averaged 9 yards and had 200 plus yards. He's solid. He's solid for sure. And I'm trying to see how many fumbles he's lost. So he's lost 5 fumbles in his career. And for the amount of kick returning and punt returning he's done, I think that is pretty solid. So I think those guys, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys, I think they'll make the roster. The first 5 are pretty much locks. 6th, Alex Erickson, he's definitely going to be fighting for a spot. Same thing with the next guy, Dax Milne, who they drafted in 2021 as a receiver, second to last pick in the draft. Was okay last year. There's like a few games where he was actually pretty good, but then he kind of tailed off at the end, really didn't get that much production. So I think he could be an okay backup slot receiver in this league. We'll see what he can do, and if he can be a good punt returner, maybe he can take over, take Alex Erickson's spot. But at this moment, I don't know. I think he might be on the outside looking in, depending on how many receivers they keep. I think that minimum they will keep 6, but they could keep 7. They're not going to keep 8 like they did last year. Some other guys who are on the roster that could make it at the receiver position, you got Jaquez Ezzard, who has had a couple good plays in minicamp or OTAs so far, and he had had insane stats at whatever college he played at. So he has a chance, and I've heard Markin Michelle has looked good as well, Sony Michel's brother. So maybe one of those guys can make it, but those guys are probably more likely than not practice squad guys for sure. So let me know what you guys think about this receiving core. I think it is much improved from last year, and I think it is an above average receiving core and could be like a top 10 unit if we actually stay healthy. So let's see. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and peace.